It was supposed to be an ordinary day at Shepherd Middle School in Deerfield, Illinois, but on February 5, 2025, one mother's worst fears became a reality. Her 13-year-old daughter returned home visibly shaken, struggling to process what had happened. During gym class, she and other girls had been expected to change in the presence of a biological male. In Deerfield, the girls, Illinois, uncomfortable and confused, refused to undress.
So what happened was my daughter and all of her PE fellow girls, they wanted their locker room back. They had originally decided on their own that they weren't going to be changing in front of this student. So they had tried to do basically their own protest and not change in front of the student. So they decided one day to just not wear their PE clothes. They went to not change.
But what followed was even more alarming. The next day, school officials stepped in. Reports suggest that the girls were called into an administrator's office by the assistant principal, Kathy Van Treese, Joanna Ford, Ginger Logeman. They questioned the girls and then escorted them back to the very locker room they had tried to avoid and forced them to change in front of the boy. The message was clear. Their discomfort didn't matter. Their objections had no place in the new rules of so-called inclusivity. What happened in that school was more than just a policy dispute. It was a moment that exposed the deeper reality of what is happening in schools across the country. When privacy, safety, and biological reality conflict with ideology, it's young girls who are expected to sacrifice. Weeks later, the controversy erupted into public view. At a heated school board meeting on March 13, 2025, parents packed the room, divided between those who believed in protecting sex-based rights and those who prioritized a new definition of inclusion. The mother at the center of it all stood before the board and demanded answers.
My name is Nicole Georges, and I'm here to demand that the locker rooms and bathrooms at District 109 be designated as biological male and biological female, as there already is a gender-neutral option. The girls want their locker rooms and bathrooms back. They want their privacy back. This is why I'm here tonight. My 13-year-old daughter's well-being and mental health and privacy is at stake. This nightmare began on February 5th when my daughter was using the girls' bathroom and was stunned that a biological male student was using it as well. She came home frightened and was extremely upset. I asked her to talk with her teachers and find out more information. She was told by the administration that a student can use the bathroom as well as a female locker room because they now identify as female. I was sent an email to the teachers involved and received a call from Principal Wegley. He verbally reiterated that under Joanna Ford's direction and their legal counsel that the student could use both the locker room and bathroom. I expressed that the school was in clear violation of federal policy. The Trump administration issued an executive order restricting biological males from participating in sports and accessing female locker rooms. That day, I filed a civil rights complaint on behalf of my daughter with the Department of Justice. It has now been referred to the Department of Education. A federal complaint has been filed with the district to protect the students. The situation went from bad to worse. A few days later, the male student was present in the girls' locker room. Feeling violated, the girls made the choice to not change into their PE clothes with a biological male student present. The next day, Assistant Principal Kathy Van Treese pulled the girls into their office, questioning them. The same day, Assistant Superintendent Joanna Ford, Kathy Van Treese, and multiple teachers all came into the girls' locker room, making them change into uniform. This went on all week with the addition of Ginger Logeman. My daughter refused to take part in having her privacy being violated. How dare they? She ran out and called for me for help. Principal Wegley was offering my daughter a new PE class. The answer was no. She is not changing for the remainder of the year, and she is not changing into another class. The girls just want their privacy and they want their locker room back. There are gender neutral options. This is my daughter's story and the story of many other young girls who have been forced at the difficult age to do something they know and most adults know is wrong. Do the right thing, Deerfield, and give these girls their locker room and bathrooms back. Allowing biological males to access girls' locker rooms sets a dangerous precedent that erodes the very foundation of female privacy and safety. By making this decision, the school board is not only disregarding the concerns of young female students and making their families, but also establishing a legal and policy framework that will make it increasingly difficult to protect the integrity of female-only spaces in the future.
But the response was predictable. School officials stood firm. Some community members dismissed the concerns altogether. claiming that discomfort with these policies was nothing more than outdated thinking. Others even suggested that objecting to the presence of a biological male in a girl's locker room was no different than historical discrimination. But is that really the case? For generations, sex-based privacy wasn't about exclusion. It was about dignity. It was about ensuring that young girls never had to justify their right to feel safe in a space meant for them. What happened at Shepherd Middle School is not an isolated incident. It is part of a larger movement, one where parental authority is being stripped away, where traditional values are dismissed as intolerance, and where ideology is prioritized over common sense. The civil rights complaint remains unresolved. The school district refuses to back down. The administrators involved offer no comment. But the question remains, who is standing up for these girls? Because if the right to privacy can be erased in a school locker room, where does it end? If we stay silent now, what will be taken next? The fight for children's rights, for parental authority, for the values that built this country? It doesn't end here. Some battles must be fought.
I agree. They got to be sued. The only option is suing them and taking them to court, I believe, it's absolutely ridiculous. So someone's going to get hurt. It's just plain wrong. It is. So anyways, it used to be all women's rights, and now it's all trans rights is what they're doing. All right, the next one's about AI in 10 years. Elon Musk was talking about that. And I don't think we're going to end up avoiding it. We got to just make sure it doesn't get in the wrong hands. Because if we don't do it, it's obvious China will do it. They're the next one that would be able to do it, but long before Russia can. There we go.
AI. In 10 years, how is life going to be different because of AI for just a normal person?
Well, 10 years is a long time. In 10 years, probably AI could do anything better than a human can, cognitively. Probably almost, I think in 10 years, based on the current rate of improvement, AI will be smarter than the smartest human. There will also be a massive number of robots. So humanoid robots.
By the way, I got to ask, how come your robots look so much like the creepy robots for my robot? Was that intentional or just... I
was hoping he was going to say, yeah, just to mess with you.
It's not meant to look like any prior robot. We'll iterate the design. You'll be able to have a lot of the robot parts are cosmetic. You'll be able to switch out the kind of snap-on cosmetic parts of the robot, make it look like something else if you'd like. Mm-hmm. So there will be ultimately billions of humanoid robots. All cars will be self-driving.
In 10 years?
In 10 years, probably 90% of miles driven will be autonomous.
Huh. Wow. That fast?
Yeah. In 5 years, probably 50% of all miles driven will be autonomous.
Now, if AI will be smarter than any person, how many jobs go away because of that? And what do people do if you've got millions of people that are losing their jobs? Like that, a lot of people are understandably freaked out about that.
Well, goods and services will become as close to free. So it's not as though people will be wanting in terms of goods and services.
So why is that? Why are goods and services free in an AI world or close to free?
Well, you have, I don't know, call it tens of billions of robots. That they will make you anything or provide any service you want for basically next to nothing. It's not that people will have a lower standard of living; they'll have actually a much higher standard of living. The challenge will be fulfillment. How do you derive fulfillment and meaning in life?
Is Skynet real? Like you get the apocalyptic visions of AI. How real is the prospect of killer robots annihilating humanity?
20% likely, maybe
Wow.
10%.
On what time frame?
5 to 10 years.
So soon, like you see a world where that's possible.
Yeah, but I mean, you could look at it like the glass is 80 to 90% full, meaning like 80% likely will have extreme prosperity for all.
Now, I guess my view, we're in a race to win AI. We're in a race with China. And my view is if they're going to be killer robots, I'd rather they be American killer robots than Chinese. How likely are we winning right now? Is America winning right now? And how likely is America to win the race for AI vis-a-vis China or anyone else?
It is about productivity. The more we can produce, the more wealthy a country does grow. The issue with it is that who controls that? Do we let our deep state government control that? That's the issue, really. That it's not so much whether we're going to have AI or not. It's going to happen. Who's going to control it?
For the next few years, I think America is likely to win. Then it will be a function of who controls the AI chip fabrication. The factories that make the AI chips, who controls them? If more of them are controlled by China, then China will win.
More of the factories that are making the AI chips. You think that will determine it?
Yes.
And how are we doing versus China on that front?
Well, right now, almost all the advanced AI chip factories, they call them fabs, are in Taiwan.
And what if China invades
69
Taiwan?
miles away from.
Yeah. What happens if China,
Yeah.
if China invades Taiwan? What happens to the world?
Well, if they were to invade in the near term, the world would be cut off from advanced AI chips.
And
Currently, 100% of advanced AI chips are made in Taiwan.
How fast could we put that online in America? And how important is that for national security?
I think it's essential for national security, and we're not doing enough.
you're 50.
I think he's absolutely right. And Trump was doing that thing where he's having people buy in to come into America. And there would be a lot of these smart, intelligent people that would be doing that, you would think, I don't know. We can't trust the deep state, though, that are part of the globalists, that they want to control this, which China's got their hand in there, too. So this is what's going on in Canada. When they come to your place for what you're posting or thinking or saying, even in your texting, they know every communication you're doing. Watch this.
I'm very confused as to why 2 police officers are at my house right now.
Sir, my partner here's a nurse. Do you mind if we come in? Out of the way?
May I ask why?
Yeah, do you mind if we come in and chat about it?
Into my house?
Yeah, you can just come to this landing.
Sure, that would be fine. Thank you very much. What can I do for you?
Sorry, just one second.
Why are you in my house, may I ask?
So the reason we're here today is
Sorry, what are your names?
my name's Constable McDougal.
Do you have badge numbers?
Yeah,
May I see a badge?
Sure.
I don't know if you're police. 5124 and your name?
I gave it to you already.
I'm sorry, I have ADHD and a learning disability. I can't remember your name.
Well, you've got it on your recording, so you've got it there. You've got my badge number and my name. So the
I'm
reason
sorry,
we're
my
here
name is
today-
Dana Warren Sharp.
Yeah.
What is your name again?
Constable McDougal.
McDougal?
Yeah.
What is your first name?
I don't need to provide you with my first name.
Well, you know my first name.
Okay, so Dana, the reason that we're here today is that there's some concerns about you were sending some messages to your brother-in-law,
What messages?
some text messages about he kind of perceived them as threats.
Have you seen the messages?
My other colleague has, yeah.
What do the messages say?
Well, I don't know them specifically, but I was asking.
Then why are you here if you don't know what the messages
We're
say?
part of a mental health team, so I think Dr. Burkett at the Mood Disorders Clinic had some concerns as well.
Dr. Burkett is no longer my doctor.
Yeah.
I'm suing her for malpractice.
Okay, and so she contacted your family doctor who also has some concerns. So we're part of a mental health.
I haven't
team.
talked to my family doctor in 3 months.
Yeah.
So how would he know about
Well, I
my
think they've been reaching out and you haven't been answering them back, so that.
I have had one phone call,
Yeah, to be more concerned.
but I have no issues.
Can you believe that?
Concerns as well.
Can you? I mean, they're all over you. All right, I'm going to get to the main thing I was going to play. Inside J6ers with Josh Pruitt, I think is how you say the name. Anyways, here you go. Let me, I think I got to fast forward 30 seconds here. they go further, it'll miss it. And then, so unbelievable. Now there's a lot of J6ers still in jail. Still in jail. Can you believe that? And they're trying to find other ways to put them back in jail. Unbelievable.
All right. Good evening,
I'll
ladies
take
and
myself out
gentlemen.
of the
Welcome
picture.
to the Inside J6 podcast, brought to you by the Gateway Pundit and Blessed.News. I am your host, Brian Lupo, aka CanCon, and I want to give a special shout out to Jake Lang for holding it down last week while I was traveling for another media company that I work for, and I was out in Vegas, so it wasn't like it was all work. It's a good time out there in Las Vegas, and looking forward to tonight's show. It's not often that so I look small behind this. I'm actually 6'3", like 200 pounds. I'm not a big guy, but I'm tall. I look small, but tonight, man, our guest is, he's a big guy. He is a big, big guy. So we're going to bring on Josh here in just a second for our interview. But before we do that, let's go ahead and check out a word from our sponsor, J6Rebuild.com. Ladies and gentlemen, our J6ers coming out of the prisons, the gulag, after the pardons from President Donald Trump, it's not an easy life. And J6 Rebuild helps out tremendously with, getting these individuals, these patriots, back on their feet. So check it out, and we'll be right back.
The January 6 political prisoners are on the verge of being miraculously saved when President Trump pardons them all on January 20th, 2025. But their journey home will be a long road as they struggle to rebuild broken lives and resettle into society with nothing to their names. After enduring 4 years of persecution and imprisonment, these patriotic hostages have lost everything. Many are now homeless, having lost their homes and life savings. Families are devastated, with cars repossessed, generational businesses destroyed, and financial ruin leaving them destitute. That's why these POWs desperately need support through the J6 Life Rebuilding Fundraiser. With generous donations, we can provide basic necessities like first month's rent, cell phones, clothing, and groceries to help them resettle into society. This vital fundraiser, led by Jake Lang, a January 6 political prisoner who has suffered over 900 days of solitary confinement, has already helped over 50 patriots with legal assistance. These broken men need a helping hand to rebuild their lives, and we must be the light at the end of the tunnel for them. By contributing, you can ensure no J6 patriot steps out of prison alone and empty-handed. Volunteers will provide supplies to help every J6er settle into a new life. Please donate today to make a life-changing impact on a J6 hero. Visit j6rebuild.com to become a resettlement sponsor and bring hope to these liberated prisoners.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, j6rebuild.com. If you can donate $5, $10, $20, whatever it may be, jump over there and help out our J6ers as they start to recover and get their lives back in order. Joined tonight by Josh Pruitt. Josh, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm a lot better than I've been. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see you on the other side of the gulag. We'll get right into the interview tonight. I want to start out. I ask every person that comes on the show, the first question I ask them is, what was your motivation to go to DC on January 6th? What was your justification? Reasoning. There we go.
I mean, right down to it, I mean, I believed, and I still do believe, the election was stolen. So I thought we were standing for something. And I mean, that's what I do think. We were standing for something. I believed we were going against a tyrannical government, which is why, throughout that day, I mean, we didn't hold back. I didn't wear a mask that day. I didn't cover up because I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. I thought I was fighting for my country.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, the J6 stuff is, become something I've been, pretty dug in on for the last few years, but elections is what got me. And I was there in DC on January 6th. I was fortunate enough not to go to the Capitol. I was saved by the grace of God from going. But I'm with you 100%. The 2020 election, not only the 2020 election, but a lot of our elections are just rife with fraud, man. Just everything. Nothing about them is secure. Voting machines, etc. We did get a new CISA director today. He's a veteran, U.S. Coast Guard veteran, worked for Department of Energy. He's actually a technical guy, cybersecurity or cyber operations guy, as opposed to the previous guy, Chris Krebs, who was an environmental lawyer. So that's promising there. Were you a veteran?
I was not. My sister and my brother both are. So I completely back the service. And again, people like when we talk about these stolen elections, like they go into a lot of these conversations are, oh, well, do you really think they stole these votes? They did this and that. Well, not only do I not think that at 4 o'clock in the morning that all these votes went one direction, but it's not just about that. It goes way deeper. It goes into the way the media maneuvered everybody. It goes way deeper than just that one thing. And that's what people are not understanding is that it was stolen in multiple directions.
Yeah. The universal mail-in balloting, locking down from COVID, fear-mongering everybody and sending 1 million ballots out to, a town of 100,000 people. Just all the shenanigans. I've written about it extensively at Gateway Pundit, even going deep into the machines themselves and, some of the flaws in the code, et cetera, et cetera. So you're preaching to the choir on that. That was my number one reason. But looking back, I guess with everything Donald Trump's doing right now with, Doge and stripping clearances, and hopefully we'll see, some investigations into some of these individuals. I hate saying it because there's so many people that got just absolutely destroyed over the last 4 years. But if there wasn't that gap there, I don't think Donald Trump could have come in and did what he's doing right now. I don't think
I agree. I agree. And what I would say too is he's doing everything that I would say we voted for, but I didn't vote for anything because I couldn't.
Right.
But everything you guys voted for. And at the end of the day, it's you, the people, that are who saved us, because you guys are the ones that put Trump in the position to pardon us. So at the end of the day, as a J6er personally, I have as much respect for the Republican Party and the conservatives as I do Trump, because you guys are the ones that really saved us at the end of the day. Because if you guys wouldn't have got him in, if it wasn't too big to rig, then guess what? Guess where I'd still be.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll get into all that here. I do want to go back and tell your story about that day and what you did. So you had gone there, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, you weren't yet a full-fledged Proud Boy, but you were going through the process of becoming a Proud Boy?
Correct. I was in the vetting process. I had been being vetted for about 3 months, since the 2 months since the November rally was when I started getting vetted. And literally I became a legit Proud Boy on the 20th of January. So literally after January 6th, I went to a meeting for my chapter and got really sworn in. There was a mock swear-in by Enrique in November, but basically what we found out is, I had no idea what everything meant at the time, but apparently that wasn't legit. So at that point, I started getting vetted.
Speaking of things that weren't legit, have you seen this stuff about Joe Biden and the auto pen?
Yeah. I have.
How great is that going to be, Josh, if, they go through all this stuff, they look at this stuff, and it turns out that Joe Biden didn't actually sign those pardons for the J6 sham committee, for Adam Schiff, for his son Hunter, for his family members, for all that stuff. And now all those pardons go by the wayside and they're fair game in this.
I hope that's exactly what happens. To be honest, I don't think Joe Biden would know what he signed or what he didn't.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So walk us through your experience on J6. Where were you? What did you do? Start, maybe with the speech, or if there's something from January 5th, the night before.
I guess so. The night before, so I lived in DC at the time. I literally had a place in Cathedral Heights, which is about 2.5 miles away from the White House. Very nice neighborhood. And I had some other Proud Boys come in and drop some of their stuff off at my house. So there's kind of an epic pic of me. If you Google me, the first thing that comes up is me holding this AR-15, standing on top of a BLM banner They want to call it a flag. I won't call it a flag. And that's how they tried to portray me. So anyway, obviously the AR didn't go with us because that was never the plan. And so that was on the 5th. And on the 6th, we met up and we basically just walked down to hear Trump speak. To be honest, it was so crowded. We had a hard time getting through the crowd. We had a hard time hearing what was going on. You know, me and the other Proud Boys, I mean, we were talking through Telegram. But the only plan that was put together by us was the idea of walking down and protesting at the Capitol. That was it. There was no going in the building. There was no talk of any of that. That was never planned. We had the same setup and same thought process as every other patriot. We were going to go down and protest peacefully. And what the Proud Boys really stood for and what we were at a lot of these events is we're the security. So what would happen is during the day, just like on January 6th, very peaceful protests. The rallies were very peaceful and just fun days. But at the end of the night, what would happen is Antifa and BLM would come out and they would start attacking patriots. Now, when I say patriots, I don't mean dudes like you and me, bro. I mean like women and children.
Yeah.
So we were the counter. And because you had a crazy liberal mayor, I think her name's Bowser, whatever her name is, I could care less. She literally told the cops to stand down. So you had BLM and Antifa spraying urine bottles, and they were told they couldn't do anything. Well, guess who wasn't told we couldn't do anything? Us. I came across multiple cops that I knew. And not for nothing, they let us slide right past them and kind of do what we needed to do what they weren't allowed to do. Told the cops, and that's what we thought January 6th was going to be, is we thought it was going to be a peaceful day, almost like a party kind of day. You know what I'm saying? And a protest, of course, but we thought the real problem was going to be at nighttime because that's how it always turned out.
So did you see the shenanigans on January 5th with BLM and Antifa, or was that just from the previous rallies?
No, it was there on the 5th. I mean, not only was that there on the 5th, right by the White House over by Harry's, which was known as the Proud Boy Bar, which is now closed because the leftists made sure it got shut down because they boycotted it. There, we found a pallet of bricks over there that was covered with a tarp, which was typical for the rallies. And, all of a sudden, every night, BLM ends up having bricks. Now, the other thing that we saw is I was at a hotel on the 4th, and we saw a bus come in. And again, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, and I could just be speculating, but the people were dressed all in black, and they had a police escort. So, I mean, I don't really know what to think of that, but to me, it sounds like Antifa. And Antifa, they seem pretty well organized for whatever they claim they are.
Right. I mean, the bricks are common. I mean, we saw that throughout 2020 in my city here, and we live in a suburb of Fort Lauderdale. So, it's relatively quiet, but they had a huge march where they shut down some of the roads. And of course there were bricks. Now, to be fair, they were actually doing some work. I don't know that the bricks were necessary yet, but they were there. And fortunately they didn't touch them. They didn't, get into them and cause any destruction. But yeah, that was all over the place. It's kind of ironic how that just popped up. Where
I can promise you there was no work being done by the White House at that time. And not only that, once a bunch of us started reporting it, all of a sudden the bricks disappeared.
Wow. So you guys didn't really get into anything too crazy on the 5th, right?
No, on the 5th, It was very, very low key, to be honest. Like, it was not, we really expected the 6th to kind of be the day that they really came out and they went hardcore. And I mean, November and December, when we got into it with them at night, we were walking 10, 20 blocks, basically both of us trying to get to each other, and the cops blocking it off, and it was a whole thing. And yeah, that didn't really happen on the 5th, but that's what we expected on the 6th.
So tell me, before you guys, left wherever you guys were staying at and made your way towards either the Ellipse or the Capitol, for the Ellipse, I'm assuming, for the speech, what was kind of the mindset? Because we've heard throughout the trials that, oh, you guys were they were conspiring to take over the Capitol and blah, blah, blah. What was the mindset of the guys that night?
I can promise you it wasn't that. I mean, that's all a lie. And I mean, being a part of one of the groups that they tried to say orchestrated the whole thing, there was no plan of going in the building. There was no plan of anything. I mean, we walked down there early because we were in such a weird spot trying to listen to Trump that we could barely hear it. We could barely move. So we were like, let's just go ahead and start moving towards the Capitol. You know, we get down there, and so this is a crazy thing. So right beside the Capitol, they had a bunch of food stands set up. You know, which
we've heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most like that's where we went to the restroom at. We got down there, we're like, we need to use the restroom, and you have all these food stands. We walked into the food stands, we got food and used the porta potties, and then we went to the Capitol, and this was half a block away. You know, so it's like it was set up for us to be there, you know, to begin with. We get there, there's a bunch of people on the yard. I mean, it's peaceful, you know, and it goes another direction at some point, but it goes another direction because the antagonizing on the other side. I mean, basically what happens out of nowhere is patriots are being patriots and celebrating and singing and carrying flags to just getting gassed, you know, and it's just, I mean, it's the most insane thing. So I just published a book. I just put the publish on it yesterday. It comes out in the next few days. And it's like, I talk a lot about January 6th and the Proud Boys and everything in it. To be honest, a good bulk of my book is about prison because you can only talk so much about one day. You know, I can talk about ideologies and all of that, but like at the end of the day, like you can only talk so much about one day. And I mean, not for nothing. I mean, it was a shit show that day, but it wasn't a shit show on our end. It was one of those things where it's like you came across different Capitol police officers, and you could tell that some of them were in on the scheme, and then some of them had no clue what was going on.
Right.
You know, I mean, when I went in the building, I asked the Capitol police officer, am I allowed to be here? And the response I got was, yes, just don't break anything. So, I mean, at that point, I mean, why am I going to turn around? Why would I leave? I feel like I'm allowed to be here, which is the purpose of me being here anyway, is to protest. Y'all let us in the building to protest, so why would I leave? So, I mean, I ended up being in there 45, 55 minutes, and, well, not for nothing. I pretty much got a month per minute I was in there because they gave me 55 months.
And I'm glad you brought up your book because I honestly, Josh, I meant to bring that up right away so that we make sure that that's not lost, and I'll let you plug that a few times here. What's the name of your book? I know, and where can people find it? It's
literally called Trumped Up. It's got my picture right on the front of it. I'm not hard to miss. And we literally hit the publish button on Amazon yesterday. They said 72 hours, so probably Friday, Saturday, so right around that time. Over the weekend, it'll be out.
All right, and I'm going to make it my goal to get your book in the bestseller category for whatever whatever category it ends up in. So, guys, Trumped Up by Josh Pruitt, and I think the ghostwriter is James Seidel.
Yeah, and he's awesome. He's written a few books already. Good guy. And, you know, here's the biggest thing about him is, and we did a podcast this morning too, and this is what I respect about him. When we first met, he didn't have a belief either way. He just, he's a conservative, but he just went with the story, and we went with it. Like, the book it's facts. You know, like, he didn't pick a side. He didn't do anything. We spent hours and hours per day, like, getting the story together. You know, it's honestly a little bit more long-winded than I thought it would be. It's like 292 pages. Wow. And I don't know if that was, I think our goal was more like 200. And then we found out at the end, oh crap, it's almost 300. But it's just because there's so much to talk about, you know, because not for nothing. I mean, I kind of put my backstory too, to kind of try to make people understand why I was there and not just how I was there. So.
Okay, so I want to make sure we get that out. So Trumped Up, it's going to be available on Amazon. Trumped Up by Josh Pruitt. So check back for that in the next few days and pick you up a copy. Support this J6er and read it. I'm sure it's going to be a fascinating book. I have no idea what prison's like. I've talked to several J6ers and gotten their story on that. So we'll dive into that aspect of it here, but I want to go back to January 6th and what was going on there. So you guys walk up to the Capitol. We've had other J6ers on who, other Proud Boys on who have talked about the food trucks and the food stands and, what an insurrection, right? An insurrection with a hot dog, right?
Without guns.
Without guns as well, right? The most armed portion of the populace in the country, conservative, MAGA, America First conservatives, and we just forgot the guns, like every single one of us.
I mean, Brian, here's the craziest part about like that aspect of it. I literally took a picture with the AR-15 hours earlier. Guess what I didn't have with me? An AR-15. I mean, so if that was our real plan, why didn't I have it with me? I mean, that literally debunks the whole thing right there.
Yeah. That's what their dream was. I believe, I fully believe that J6 was a setup. And they did everything in their power to instigate it. And that's what they wanted, was armed insurrectionists in the Capitol.
Yeah. I mean, I personally believe that the pipe bomb was a backup plan.
Oh, yeah.
I think that if J6 did not go off the way that they made it go off, that they would have set that off. And they just, they found out they didn't need to. I mean,
so on the pipe bomb, just from the data that's out there, the information that's out there, I don't believe that the pipe bombs were even real. I
see that.
I followed Julie Kelly when she was talking about it, Darren Beatty when he was talking about it. Dan Bongino's done a lot on it. And just from what I can see, I have a good friend that is with DHS that trains bomb dogs. And, I showed him some of the video and I was like, is there any way that a trained Secret Service bomb dog would ever walk by this pipe bomb without sitting on it? And he's like, absolutely not. There's no possible way. And this is a guy who's been training bomb dogs for, over a decade now. And he said, there's no way. So I think they were training devices.
So, and I could actually see that aspect. So I listened to the same aspects you did, like Dan Bongino. Not for nothing, there's not a lot to do in prison. So between 12 and 3 every day, I listen to Dan Bongino. And that's where I got the bulk of my news from, is him and Mark Levin, Chris Plant out of DC. I mean, these are the guys I was listening to, besides watching Fox News, but that wasn't really my go-to, obviously.
Yeah. So on the J6, I think President Trump just mentioned it this week about getting to the bottom of the pipe bombs. Ray Epps, another great one that I would like to know more about. I've written.
I mean, what is the story about him right now? Like, I've heard nothing.
It's crickets, man. It's crickets. I just wrote an article. Ryan Samsel gave me the first interview that he did, sit-down interview with the FBI. He gave me that recording, and I mean, dude, at the end of the recording, the attorneys are literally bragging about going out to a bar with the FBI agents the night before.
Wow.
Like, what kind of investigation is that? That these guys are like, oh yeah, I've already got your number. We went to a couple bars last night, and the FBI agent responds real quick, no, we didn't. And the lawyer goes, oh, are you still recording? He says, yeah, I haven't pushed the end button yet. He's like, oh, well, I've got nothing to hide. Like,
yeah, you do.
It seems like a little bit of an ethics problem. And by the way, the attorney also was a former federal agent who specialized in dealing with law enforcement to get the better deal for their client. So yeah, it's interesting to say the least. But with President Trump, we might actually get to the bottom of this with Dan Bongino as deputy director of the FBI. I've got a lot of confidence that we'll figure it out one way or the other.
I do too.
You're putting a bull in a china shop here, and America needs answers to those questions. So
between him and Cash, it's going to be a problem for them.
I agree. So,
which is why most of them are tucking and running right now.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm hoping that the pardons, we end up finding out that those pardons are illegitimate. That would be just absolutely. That would be on the cake.
Yeah. I mean, not for nothing. I mean, only God can judge you, but I'd like to see a bunch of Democrats in shackles that. The ones that put us in shackles.
Yep. Amen. So let's go back to the Capitol, food trucks and everything else like that. You had mentioned that, it was a peaceful protest until the gas started and everything else. We We've talked about that many, many times on this show. That was the instigating factor. When you start gassing a massive crowd of peaceful protesters, you are going to agitate people and push them over that threshold to the point where they either have no choice but to go forward to get out of the gas and get out of the, the line of fire, or they're going to fight their way forward.
Which is what, I mean, that's what they did to us. I mean, they instigated it. They instigated me to a point where I did something that I didn't want to do. I mean, I only went to prison for obstruction of official court proceeding. I didn't get an assault on a police officer or any of that. But the second time I got gassed was inside the Capitol. And there's another famous picture of me throwing a sign. Well, that was after I spent 15 minutes trying to basically keep the cops from escalating a situation. And then they finally said F it and gassed us. And I walked out of the room, covered my nose after getting gassed in the face. And I picked a freaking stay quiet sign up and I threw it out of just frustration and not one of my better moments. I'll say that, but like in the scheme of things, I mean, we were pushed to it,
Yes.
And that was kind of what happened throughout the day. I mean, I don't know if you talked to the guy, and I don't know his name, to be honest. There is a guy that was a police officer from New York, and they gave him 10 years. I met him in one of the jails. He was 25 years New York PD, and they gave him 10 years for assault on a police officer. He was outside holding a flagpole, and the cop hit him in the face, and he pushed the cop back with the flagpole. So when he went to sentencing, they basically said, you should know better. You're a cop. So guess what? We're going to railroad you. And they gave him 10 years. And I mean, that is the most disgusting thing ever, but that was that's what they were doing to us. I mean, they threatened me with decades in prison, and at the time I had a 8 and a 10-year-old. Now they're almost 12 and almost 14. And it's just like, you got to think about stuff like that, and the whole thing of like a juror of your peers, one DC, it wouldn't be a juror of our peers. It's a juror of their peers. So they were going to railroad us. They had a 100% conviction rate with the J6ers. I mean, their rate's already like 98% anyway. It's ridiculous, And it's just like, when you're threatening me with 30, 40 years, yeah, I'm going to take the plea deal because I know that I'm going to get hit. And, I mean, that's what I did because even my lawyer, and I don't know how great he was because he wasn't a paid lawyer. He honestly was pushing me to take the plea deal. He kind of pushed me into it more than I wanted to be. And that's what he told me. He's like, you should get this done with and get back to your kids. He also told me I was probably only going to do like 24 months, and then they gave me 55. So, I mean, he was also full of shit.
Wow, man. So you were in the Capitol for about 55 minutes?
Yeah, right around there. Close to now, under an hour, but close.
So then after everything kind of settled down and you left, what would you do from there?
So inside the Capitol, another Proud Boy that I don't even know who he is right now. He came across me because he was all geared up, mask, everything. And who knows, he might not even be a Proud Boy. But he acted like he knew me, and we left together. And we ended up going to a beer store, we grabbed a 6-pack, and we walked down Pennsylvania Avenue again. There was a cigar shop right across the street from Harry's. We went to the cigar shop, and not for nothing, I mean, we were kind of bragging about we were just in the Capitol, And a few guys over there, they bought us these $50 cigars, saying, congrats. We were going to go to Harry's, but that's right when we found out there was a curfew. So we walked over to Harry's and they're like, yeah, no, we're shutting down. There's a curfew, At that point, me and that guy split up. I went back to the Hamilton where a few of the Proud Boys were staying. My phone was dead. So I sat in the lobby at the Hamilton with a phone charger for like 2 hours, getting my phone right and everything else. Ironically, my cousin is kind of a crazy liberal. She still doesn't talk to me to this day, and I grew up with her. Like, she texts me sometime that afternoon. She's like, oh, God, I hope you're not there. And I responded, I'm not, because technically at the time I wasn't. So I didn't lie to her. But then like an hour later, she texted me back. She's like, you lied to me. I just saw you on Fox News. I was like, okay, whatever. So and ironically, I think that is probably the last time I talked to her.
Wow.
And this was a cousin that like I grew up with. Like I lived in her house with her mom we went to school together and everything. Like she won't talk to me. However, me and her husband are like, I was just texting with him yesterday, and we're like, buddy. And she's like, yeah, she'll come around. Yeah, she probably won't, but I don't really give a fuck.
That is, that's unfortunate. I have one of the guys that I went there with. Well, I didn't go there with him. I met up with him, a friend of mine from down here in Florida, and we ended up meeting up. And he did go to the Capitol. Never went inside, but he did go. And I got in touch with him recently. We did an interview after Trump was sworn in, and same thing, man. Like his family, so many people in his family just won't talk to him anymore, and it's really unfortunate that politics and stuff like that, a complete and total misrepresentation of an event by the media, just completely ruins blood. Blood relationships. It's supposed to be thicker than water. That meant something once upon a time.
Yeah, I mean, not trying to get too deep into but my mother passed when I was 6, so I went back and forth between my dad and my cousin's mom because my mom and her mom were sisters. So I mean, we went to middle school together, high school together, everything. And it's just so her husband is not white. And the idea that she thinks that I'm this racist, whatever, and it's but why am I still best friends with your husband? And I'm the problem. It makes no sense. It's where's your thought process? Now, the other part is so I haven't talked to my kids in over 3 years. And obviously not because of me. I'm trying, but their mom is a crazy liberal. And we had been broken up for years when J6 happened. That had been done with. But I had them at my house every weekend, if not every other weekend, depending on my bartending schedule. And they went from seeing me to just not seeing me or talking to me at all. And my kids literally think I abandoned them.
Wow.
They have no clue. And it's just so since I've gotten out, I mean, I guess we've been out over 45 days or something. I haven't even kept track of it. But I've talked to her a few times, and she's just yeah, I'm trying to figure it out, how to let them talk to you again. I'm going to get a counselor and all this. At the end of the day, you're fucking worried that when they talk to me, that they're going to find out that you lied to them for years. I mean, that's what you're worried about. They don't need to talk to a counselor. You're worried about how they're going to react when they find out you lied to them. And I mean, she was taking them to BLM rallies and everything.
Oh,
I mean, it's insane. Our downfall was literally a few years earlier. There was a girl that we both went to school with in middle school that actually I dated way back in the day, but she had a kid and she transgendered this kid. And I mean, literally from 5 to, it was either 5 to 6 or 6 to 7. It went from a boy to a girl. And I had conversations with other friends, including my cousin's husband. And we're what the hell, And my kid's mom was well, what would you do if I'm ain't no fucking what would I do? My kids aren't doing that. That's a dead situation. Because here's the problem. If my son comes to me on Monday and says, I want to be a girl, what happens when he comes to me on Friday and says, I want to be a fucking dinosaur? Do I let him?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's a kid. That's a boundary that you don't do that.
I always say if you give them free will, they'd eat ice cream for every meal.
I'm sorry I'm cussing on here. I don't know if that's yeah.
We try not to, but I
get into it, and I just
I'm not going to censor you at all, man. I'm not going to censor you at all. So you leave the Capitol, you go back home. How long did it take before
that's a boundary
reached out?
So ironically, I was picked up that night for curfew.
Really?
Right outside of the Hamilton too. And so what had happened, and I write about this, there's a whole chapter in my book about the girl that I met right at the Hamilton. So she was staying at another hotel, and because of everything going on outside with the cops and everything, she was scared to walk back to her hotel. So I walked back to her hotel with her and to take her back. And we get back over there. We had a few drinks, and then she decided, screw it, to go back to the Hamilton and have a few drinks with me and the other Proud Boys. And that's when we walked across. When we got right by the Hamilton, I get tackled by like 20 cops.
What?
For curfew. Now, keep in mind, she doesn't get tackled. The couple across the street doesn't get tackled because they're profiling. And I'm this 245-pound bodybuilder. You know, I mean, not for nothing, I was roided out. I looked like a problem. But I didn't do anything. I just looked the part, and they tackled me. Again, she's right there. They don't charge her. They don't grab her. They grab me up. And from there, I go in a paddy wagon for like 45 minutes while they're picking other patriots up. And they take us down to the DC jail. And from there, we get into this line that we're supposed to be going through for the curfew ticket. And maybe an hour into waiting in that line, I get pulled aside by two guys that are not in uniforms. I don't know if they're feds. I don't know what they are, but they're not uniformed cops. And they turn this laptop around and they show me a video of me in the Capitol. And of course, I have the same freaking outfit on because I didn't go change my clothes. I didn't think it was, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't hiding from anything, you know, and, you know, as big as I was and looking like I couldn't argue that it was somebody else. So it was a got you moment, you know? Now from there, I ended up in this like holding cell with like 45 other people until they put me into a single cell for another few hours. Now the single cell, there was just, you couldn't even sit down in the single cell in the DC jail. Like there was just roaches crawling around. Like you couldn't sit. Like it was absolutely disgusting. But what they ended up doing is they ended up letting me out. And apparently I didn't actually get even charged with anything that day. Apparently it was 2 days later that my indictment dropped. And that's when they hit me. And I mean, they hit me with like 12 charges. I mean, it was literally throwing crap against the wall to see if it would stick. You know, and like the worst charge that they tried to get me with was violent acts inside of a federal building. So like, I mean, what does that mean? I walk too fast in the building? Like, I don't really understand. So like, that was the worst one they hit me with. And then a bunch of them were just kind of repetition of the same thing, you know?
Right.
And again, I ended up taking the plea of the obstruction charge, but I mean, like, yeah, they threw a bunch of crap against the wall to see if it would stick.
So, well, first, when you walked out of there after the trespassing debacle, did you think like I'm free and clear, I'm good?
Okay, so initially I did, until when they let us out, they sent us to a different precinct to pick our stuff up. So like our wallet or whatever. And when I went to the precinct, which ironically was a block and a half away from my house, they wouldn't give me my cell phone. And they said it was for evidence. So at that point, I knew it was deeper.
Yep.
You know, that's when I knew I was like, okay, this is a problem. So I was out for about 10 months. I ended up spending over 3 years in prison, but I was out for 10 months. And like during those 10 months, I mean, I was vocal. I was on all social media. I was running my mouth. I was still saying the election was stolen, as I still believe today. Like I didn't hold back. I went on CNN. I went on HBO, ITV News out of London. I went on. I did like 3 documentaries. Like, I mean, I wouldn't shut my mouth. Like I was 100 miles an hour. So eventually the judge shut me up and he said, you got to turn yourself in. And he literally admitted, he said, what you said on CNN, da, 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 da. And look, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I said on CNN, I would do it again. I mean, not only did I say that I thought the election was stolen, I said I would do January 6th again. And And that's when he was like, yeah, he gave me like 4 days to turn myself in.
Wow.
And literally like in that, it was a Zoom because of COVID or whatever. And in that Zoom, I went off on him, like on the judge. I was like, I literally said to him, I said, you guys should be paying more attention to the BS BLM people. Like I went off, you know what I'm saying? And his response was, well, I mean, should we pick you up now or do you want the 4 days to get yourself together? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, I'll take the 4 days, and I shut up. But like, you know, I gave him my peace of mind at first, you know? And like when all that happened, there was like a big thing over the internet about them saying that they didn't think I was going to turn myself in. They thought I was going to run. And the judge even made a response. And the judge was like, well, if he does, I promise it's going to be 10 times worse for all this BS. But I did turn myself in. And like they told me to. Now, not for nothing. I mean, when you're like months away from knowing that you're probably going to prison, and at this point I knew I was going to prison, I crashed and burned in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like I started drinking heavy. It got bad. Like, I mean, I was literally a competitive bodybuilder and a personal trainer and all that. And like, I was still big, but I'd stopped working out. I just started drinking. It was bad, you know? Yeah. I mean, the day I turned myself in, I woke up and was like taking shots of whiskey.
Wow.
You know, and it was just like, it was just like, I knew it was over. I didn't know for how long it was over, but I knew it was over.
So you go and you end up taking a plea deal. You said you initially had 12 charges and they brought it down to just the obstruction charge?
Yeah, they took the plea deal down to the obstruction charge. And but that charge held 20 years if they wanted to. I mean, nobody's ever going to get that. But see, the way the charge read made no sense. So obstruction of official court proceeding, the way it reads is you had to tamper with a witness, which obviously I didn't, or tamper with evidence, which is obviously another thing I didn't. So the charge made no sense. But again, I mean, I hate to say bad stuff about the lawyer I had, but he was court appointed. Now, this guy had his own law firm. I mean, he's not a public defender. You know, he probably has to do so many pro bonos. But I don't know how much he really fought for me. I feel like he wanted to just get it over with. So
you plead to the one charge. Did they take you into custody right away?
No, I was already in custody at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, at that point I had been in like 10 months. Okay.
So what was your prison situation? Because we've heard, you know, guys with misdemeanors going to, you know, medium security, which is hard time. What was your situation like?
Well, I ended up at what was considered a medium/high. You know, again, for the obstruction charge. This facility was Beckley FCI in West Virginia. It's one of the top most violent prisons in the country. There's only 2 facilities in the federal that hold in MS-13, and we're one of them.
Wow.
So, I mean, I went to hell. Yeah. I mean, that's where I went. People got stabbed on a daily basis. It was bad. It was super bad. Honestly, like in my book, I got like 4 chapters on freaking prison because sadly, there's way more to talk about prison because I spent way more time there than I did January 6th. You know, so like it's so easy to go super deep into like prison. But it's like its own economy in there. But I mean, it's super dangerous and it's ran by gangs. I mean, there's Bloods, Crips, MS-13, anything you think of. Like I worked in the kitchen next to a guy that was MS-13. And again, I'm in there for obstruction of official court proceeding. This guy's in there for chopping up and disposing of 2 bodies. Why am I standing beside this person? How do I belong beside this guy?
That is insane, man.
I mean, make sense of that.
They wanted one of you guys to get killed. That's exactly what they wanted. They wanted somebody to get killed.
Well, listen to this. My first cellmate at this prison they put me in with a guy that spoke no English that was an enforcer for the Mexican mafia. Well, guess what? He found out who I was and he tried to fight me. You know?
How did that end up?
Bad for him.
Yeah, I would think so. So, so that kind of answers my next question, is because a lot of the guys we talked to that were in prison, I think it was Stuart Rhodes that we were talking to a couple weeks ago. And, he was saying that most of the guys in there, even though it was a medium security, medium high, most of the guys that were in prison with him were actually receptive to the idea that they were J6ers, and they supported, that. And they weren't like, there wasn't, they left them alone. You didn't have that experience?
No, I kind of did. So here's the thing. So here's a weird thing about me. And so again, it goes by gangs in there.
Right.
And some of these gangs are not necessarily gangs, they're areas. So there's like DC, there's the South, there's this and that, So DC actually was technically the biggest gang in my prison. And there was no white people in DC gang. However, and I wasn't part of them. However, I bartended in DC for 15 years. And I knew a lot of these guys because I bartended at a lot of spots that were kind of like dope boy spots. So a lot of these guys knew who I was from the street. And because they've been in the bars I was at. So they actually respected me. And a lot of them pretty much have my back. So like, besides that one instance, a lot of people talked a lot of crap about me, but nobody talked any crap about me in my face. Right. Like it just wasn't something that happened. It was something that happened in the background. And then it's just like face to face, they're nice to me.
How tall are you?
I'm not that tall. I'm only 5'8". Damn. I'm not tall at yeah, I mean, I'm freaking short. I'm just stocky.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you're bodybuilder, all that stuff. I
was a problem. I mean, I trained MMA for 3 years. I mean, I know how to handle myself. Like that was something I was never worried about. What I was more worried about was getting more time for doing something like that.
Right.
So I tried to stay out of anything because it's just like physically, I know I can handle myself. I also know I don't need to prove myself because for what? I know what I'm capable of physically. So there's no point. So like, unless somebody walked in front of my face and swung with me, I wasn't going to do anything. You can talk all the trash you want behind my back. I'm a grown man. I'm freaking 43 years old. Like I don't need to go that route.
I'm younger than you. And how do you keep your beard not gray?
Just for men, brother.
I'm 2 years younger than you. I look like Santa Claus by comparison.
Hey, just for men, brother.
I'm gonna have to try that one day. I'm gonna come in with a normal colored beard, and people.
A lot of people like the gray, though.
If I had like a cool.
I mean, if you look at my prison photo of me and one of my buddies, yeah, I got the gray. It mostly comes in right here too. It's the weirdest. Well, yeah. So and see, that's another. So the one prison photo I have, and again, this like I'm such a white supremacist, is from this dude named Amazing, and he's not white. He's a DJ from Baltimore, which is why we were cool because Baltimore DC's right there. You know what I'm saying? So like now he was a famous DJ in Baltimore, and now he's a DJ in Atlanta because he moved down there. So like I have to go to Georgia in a week and a half to speak, and I was just talking to him like 2 hours ago. Like we're gonna meet up and hang out and kick it. Like I mean, this was one of my like guys.
Have you kept in touch with anybody that you met through it while you were in prison?
Two main people that are out. There's a few that have messaged me from in prison, but like, so there's the guy Amazing, and there's another guy that goes by Haga, and he's an old school. He's mafia. He's an old school mafia guy.
Yeah.
Retired mafia.
So, you're going through prison, obviously, as the 2024 election is underway, you got to be rooting for Trump with everything that you got. What was it like the day that he won, and how did you find out?
Okay, so when he won, it was I don't know, it was surreal, first of all, but we had TVs in the unit. So the one thing that in my unit, again, they had enough respect for me. So the TVs were ran by different gangs, pretty much. They chose who put whatever on the TV, but everybody knew who I was. So like when it was election, like they put the TV on that. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, we need to watch this, da da da, and they went with it. You know, I mean, ironically, a lot of these guys in prison were kind of rooting for me to get out. You know, and so they put it on the election. Now we locked down at 8:30 at night. Obviously, nothing had happened by 8:30 at night. Now in my cell, I can see out this little small window. And I can see the TV, and I'm watching it. I have to stand up by my door. It's like an awkward situation, but I stood there all night until they finally, like at like 2:30 in the morning, Fox announced it. You know, and not for nothing, I couldn't sleep. You know, I was just like so high strung. It was insane. Like afterwards, I like laid in my bed and I was like, holy crap, I'm getting out. I'm getting out. However, because there's still months left, because we know nothing can happen until the 20th, I swear it's like the Jeopardy music playing in the back of your head at that point. Because it's like, you know it's coming, or well, at least you think it is. And it's just like when, you know, it's like, okay, I'm supposed to be free. I'm supposed to be free. I'm supposed to be free. And you're just waiting for it.
Did the CO start treating you guys any different after that, knowing that you guys were likely going to get out?
I mean, not for nothing. I was in West Virginia.
Oh,
so
okay.
the COs,
probably
most of the COs were relatively Trump supporters there. Like one of the, like when I first got there, there's a guy that's SIS, which basically what that is he is over the investigations of the gangs and everything. So of course, you know, I was part of the Proud Boys. So he pulled me aside right away. And he's just like, hey, man, I'm all for what you did or whatever. He said, but please don't recruit anybody in here. So I turned to him, and my exact words were, honestly, if I were going to recruit anybody, it'd be your COs. It wouldn't be the freaking inmates. Because those are the guys I would see more eye to eye with. It's not these drug dealers. It's the guys that are law enforcement, you know? And I actually had a CO there at one point asking me multiple times how he could join the Proud Boys. You know, so like, I mean, a lot of them were about it.
So during that, you know, 2.5 month, whatever it is, lull between November and January, there was a lot of talk about, you know, the J6ers and everything. And Trump kind of seemed like, and I'll admit, I was a little bit worried myself where, you know, I was kind of thinking like, oh man, is he going to walk back on this? Because he was saying we're going to go case by case and all that. What was your thoughts when you heard that?
Well, so on the walk back, I knew based on my charge that if he did base it on a person by person, I kind of still felt I would get pardoned, but I was still kind of crapping my pants a little bit because it wasn't being talked about as much as I thought it would. And like, especially like the few days up to the 20th and the day of, and I almost was like trying to tell myself, I was like, okay, maybe they're not talking about it because they don't want to get so much riffraff from the left. And like, you know, I was trying to tell myself certain stuff so I would calm down a little bit, because even on the 20th, you didn't hear anything. Like it was crickets all day, at least about January 6ers. And then just all of a sudden it happened, you know? So like, that was my thought process. Like, okay, maybe they're not talking about it because they don't want to make a problem out of it. And then, so when I got so I heard the pardon. Apparently, I heard it happened at like 4:30 in the afternoon, but our TVs were cut off because of disciplinary reasons, and I was only able to listen to radio. So that day, I listened to Dan Bongino, but by the time Dan Bongino cut off, nothing had happened. So at 6, I put on Mark Levin, and at about 7:30, Mark Levin played the clip of us getting pardoned. So at that point, I'm like, oh crap. And like, I'm almost telling myself, like, did I hear that right? You know? So I run down and I'm like, I need the phone. And normally the phone is like an hour and a half wait. I run down and I'm like, I think I just got pardoned. I need to get on the phone. They let me right on. Nobody made me. They were like, "Hey, go, brother!" Like, you know what I'm saying? They let me get on the phone. I called my sister, which is where I'm at now, and I was like, "I think I just got pardoned." And she was like, "Yeah, I think I heard the same thing. I think you're good." And so we get off. I was like, "I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if to tell you to come here. I don't know what to tell you, but like, just like, stay around your phone." And we get off the phone, and from there we locked down at 8:30. So only an hour later, I kind of locked down. But when we locked down, I was like, "I'm gonna go ahead and pack my crap up." You know what I'm saying? So I went ahead and packed my stuff up. And initially, I was thinking like, we're gonna get pardoned. It's probably gonna be a week later. It might be days later. So at 11:30 at night, they come to my. Ironically, they actually go to a different door first because they didn't realize what door I was in. So I didn't think that's what they were doing. And then they came to my door and they just popped my cell. And they're like, "Pruitt, grab your crap. It's time to go." And this is at like 11 o'clock at night, 11:30. So I get up again. My stuff is already packed, and I throw my clothes on and I walk out. And like as I walk out through the unit, I'm just like, people are kind of awake but kind of not. Like the lights are off, TVs are off. I'm like, "Trump won," and everybody just like starts like banging their cells and like celebrating. I was like, "Yeah, I'm out of here. I'm out of here." I'm like, "Good luck, brothers," and they're same thing to me coming the other way. And that was that, and within 2 hours, like I was on the other side of the gate.
What's the first thing you ate when you got out?
Denny's.
Denny's. Huh.
It was the only what I wanted to eat. If I would have got out at an appropriate time, I wanted a hibachi.
Okay.
Which I ended up eating like 2 days later. But like what we ended up eating was Denny's. Because again, we got out like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I ended up going to Denny's like 8 o'clock. We actually didn't eat right away. At like 8 o'clock in the morning, we ate at like Denny's on the way to North Carolina.
Before I deployed to Afghanistan my first time, that's what we had. We went and had hibachi, and it was amazing. And I dreamt about hibachi for like the first 4 months.
Hibachi is like, I literally have been talking about hibachi for like ever since he won the election. I was like, "Yeah, I'm getting hibachi." Like it was like that was the plan.
Hell yeah! So what's life been like for you out? Have you been able to find work? You getting on back on your feet?
Only more recently have I started kind of snapping back a little bit. I've kind of got like a part-time gig right now, which is something I've never done in my life before. But it's basically a roadie. So like I a few days ago, I was setting up like a convention center for an event. And I just got asked today to go set up a NASCAR event in like a few weeks. So again, it's just periodically. Not for nothing. I'm kind of like hoping this book kind of puts me in a better place. I'm in kind of liberal hell where I live. So I'm moving to the beach in 2.5 weeks with another J6er. To go out there. It makes sense, and it's a super red area. I hate having to leave my sister, but it's like I'm so not welcome in this area. I went to like they've already found out who I am.
Mm.
I went the other day. It's right by the colleges. It's right by UNC and Duke. So I'm right by UNC. I went the other day to go have lunch at a restaurant off of Franklin, which is right in the middle of UNC, and a restaurant I've never been into before. And I walk 10 feet in the door and I get told I'm not allowed in there. I went to 2 other restaurants within a block and was told I'm not allowed in there. So I've already been completely doxxed in the area that I live in for not even doing anything because they figured out who I am.
Wow. Dude,
And
put those companies out on X, man. We'll take care of it.
It's disgusting. It's just,
It really is. So you're moving east towards the beach, I would assume. Careful, a lot of Marines back in eastern North Carolina.
Well, I like Marines. So
we like to pick fights, though.
Yeah.
We like to find the big guy, and we're like, "Oh, you're not a Marine? Okay, I'll fight you."
Hopefully the Marine girls find me. Not kidding. But
careful with them. Some of them will kick your ass too.
I believe it. Honestly, my Army sister probably kicked my ass. But yeah, I'm going to Wilmington. So, I think it's a good move for me. So I mean, like my real background is kind of like I was a personal trainer and bodybuilder, but I bartended for 15 years.
Right.
So like going to the beach there in a red area, I could probably make decent money bartending. And I mean, I like if my book kicks off, like I want to open. I had been planning on opening my own bar before all this even happened. Like me and a buddy of mine in DC, like we were looking at spots, and then COVID happened, so it stopped it, you know. But like, I want to open a bar called the 1776 Pub.
Hell yeah.
You know, and needless to say, January 6th will be just as important as July 4th.
Heck yeah. Love the idea, man. All right. So again, folks, we're going to start wrapping up here, but again, his book will be coming out on Amazon here very shortly in the next few days. It's called Trumped Up by Joshua Pruitt and James Seidel, Seidel.
I do have a Give, Send, Go. If you look it up, I am still trying to get back on my feet. I honestly would rather people buy my book. I don't like handouts. I'd rather people buy my book, to be honest.
Okay. What's the Give, Send, Go just in case?
I think it is Rebuilding a J6er, Josh Pruitt. So it's by Stephanie Morrison. There's two of them on there. It's the one by Stephanie Morrison.
Okay. One last question before we get out of here. You know, we had an event out in Las Vegas this week for the other media company that I'm with. And, you know, somebody had stopped me, one of our listeners and attendee had stopped me in the elevator and was, you know, knows what I do outside of that organization with the J6ers and everything else. And, you know, was saying, you know, about how these guys are getting out of there. And a lot of these guys have, you know, PTSD and they're having problems adjusting. So first and foremost, have you had any of those, you know, kind of issues? And also, are you in touch with anybody that is? And if you are, please get them in touch with me.
Am I having those issues? Absolutely. I come across like I have a lot of resilience, and I think I do. However, I didn't even sleep for the first 3 weeks coming out of prison. I mean, because every time I would even slightly fall asleep, I'd immediately wake up and think I was in prison.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've struggled with it pretty bad, to be honest. I've tried to just like out of sight, out of mind, and that's probably not the best way to take care of it. I've tried to use the gym as therapy. I've tried like this is therapy to me. You know, like I'm also starting my own podcast up on VOP USA Radio, which is Voice of the People Radio, in the next few weeks. That's going to be dropping. I feel like me talking is helping me, you know, if that makes sense. Like this helps a lot. But yeah, no, I've struggled more than I'd like to admit.
So I'm a combat vet. I had PTSD, and I can relate. You know, I didn't go to prison, but Afghanistan's not much better than prison. In fact, there's more people probably trying to kill me over there than there might be in prison. Although maybe not. Medium high security, maybe not.
I mean, if you want me to be honest with you, I almost feel disrespectful to vets saying I have PTSD.
Dude, please don't. Please, especially a political prisoner like you were. You were in the trenches. That's where you just came back from. Don't ever feel, you know, anything about that. You were in the trenches. You were put there by your own government against your will, unlawfully. You know, I volunteered for it. I knew what I was getting into. You didn't. And, you know, a lot of the same things that you're going through right now, talking to, you know, anybody that'll listen, but most importantly, fellow J6ers that have been through what you've been through, the prisons and everything else like that. It's incredibly therapeutic. So do that as much as you can. And, you know, if you can get these guys into like a group chat or something where you guys can be there for each other, you know,
I mean, I've tried to talk to a lot of these guys, and like, there's a few people I talk to consistently. There's a girl, Rasha, I talk to a lot. She's known as the tutu lady. She's super cool, but she's definitely going through PTSD. I'll tell you what, Jake Lang, talk about resilience.
Yeah.
That man's got a lot of resilience. Probably way more than me. Or at least he holds it together better. Yeah, I respect the way he's carried himself because I've had a few of my own breakdowns, and it seems like he holds it together. So,
well, so I will say this, I had a lot of the same issues when I got home. I couldn't sleep. I would wake up in the middle of the night and think, that something was going to happen. Loud noises got me, all of that stuff. And it doesn't really go away, but it does get better.
yeah.
And, I will say this, and I don't know where you stand on this, but my nickname, my name, CanCon, stands for Cannabis Conservative. And
Okay.
it was, lo and behold, the best thing I ever did.
Okay.
Lo and behold, for PTSD, for calm.
And I've heard that. The craziest thing is, I guess it relates to like what I just went through. So like, some people put like sleep music on,
Yep.
just to hear music. I've been putting freaking like heavy metal, or, like legitly like Five Finger Death Punch, like Avenged Sevenfold on my speaker at night, and honestly, that helps me go to sleep more than anything. It's weird, but it works.
Amen. Well, folks, one more time, Trumped Up by Josh Pruitt. It's coming out on Amazon in the next few days. Is there a pre-order on there?
There is not a pre-order on there, but it should be. Again, we hit the publish button last night. They said 72 hours, but I mean, you can. I'd hate to say a date. It will more likely be Friday or over the weekend.
Okay. Well,
we got the author books in already. Like I have copies.
Okay. Well, when it does get published, I will be sure to blast it out on X and all my platforms. So guys, keep an eye on that. You can follow Josh at Josh Pruitt 1776 on X, and say the Give Send Go one more time.
It's just rebuilding a J6er. It's under Stephanie Morrison is the one that put it together. That's the one. It shows there. If you look up my name on there, there's two of them, but that's the one by Stephanie Morrison.
Okay. All right. Josh, again, thanks for joining me this evening. God bless you. So glad that you're out. You have my number now. So if you ever need anything, somebody to talk to, whatever you need, brother, don't hesitate to reach out, man.
Awesome. God bless you too, brother.
All right, guys, j6rebuild.com. Check out our sponsor. Help other J6ers that are, struggling and trying to get back on their feet. And thank you guys all so much for tuning in. I will see you guys next week.
A few programming notes. By the way, there's still some J6ers still in there. And they were playing this game for a while of moving them around so the paperwork would never catch up with them so they could get out on their pardons. They were doing that kind of bull crap. Yeah, some programming notes schedule. Tomorrow I should be on 5 p.m. Eastern time, about 5 p.m. I have an author coming on, Christian type books she writes. Then Thursday, it's probably going to be on kind of late, like 9:30, 10 p.m. because that's the time she could do it. Cheryl's. It's going to be on talking about the Kennedy things. Hopefully that stuff has come out by now. We're going to be talking about that on Thursday. I think on Friday I'm going to be doing the whole thing what's going on in South Africa with the Katie, what's her last name? Oh, the one from England. Her thing on that, and I'm going to be playing some of that stuff. Hey Young's supposed to be coming on either Saturday or Sunday. And I think I have another guest one of those 2 days too. So we're working on that. And then I also have a couple people from coming from San Francisco on Patriot Mama's coming on, and that we're going to be talking about California. We're going to have a small panel about that. So, okay. Everyone, watch the other shows coming up next, like Rebel Chicks and Country Conservative Charlie there. All right? I got to get over this one ended here. Talk to you soon. God bless. Bye-bye.